Guys, welcome to another episode of Tea&Crumpets. We are in Hoxton Square area. Yeah, I'm with the elder, Michael. He's gonna be taking us around. Do you know what? Do you know who his son is, people? Shots by AK. Yes, guys, you got it right. Yeah, so we're in Hoxton.
Yeah, well, we're at the top of the street, obviously. Got the sign now. It's changed a lot since I was a kid, really. There's been a lot of changes, but a lot remains the same.
Where is Hoxton on the map?
Well, it's quite a confusing little place, Hoxton, because we're actually, if we take time back a little bit, we're in the county of Middlesex.
Right.
Because this was in the county of Middlesex. Then it was Shoreditch. They stopped calling it Shoreditch for some reason. It's Hackney, but it's at N1. Right. So it's east, but it's north. It's all a bit. It's all a bit.
So
weird.
Is that why in Tottenham they got North Middlesex Hospital? Because apparently North Middlesex was from that side coming into Hackney.
Yeah, the boroughs and the counties.
Oh, that way is the boroughs and counties.
The counties. Yeah. So it was the county of Middlesex. That changed a long time ago. But you know, it's very, very old, Hoxton. Yeah. And it used to be. I mean, going back to like the 1600s,
right.
This was a tourist area because it was countryside, but it was close to the City of London.
Right.
Yeah? So people used to come for their holidays here in the late 1600s.
Yeah.
And the 1700s, it was a bit more affluent. There were lots of big houses, some with their own moats. That all kind of changed. And then into the Victorian era, where it was really like a very, very hard place to live. It was real hardcore slums, a lot of poverty, people walking around, no shoes and socks on. You know, it was hard. It's always been a hard place. There's always been an edge to it. You know?
So Michael, what is this building right here?
So this was obviously, says it on the tin, Office for the Relief for the Poor, 1863. My great-gran, they were kind of from London Fields, which is just not too far up the road, Haggerston, really. Right. So they used to look after people because they used to feed people. You know, Christmas people used to come if they didn't have food, and they'd feed them. They'd feed the kids.
Oh.
You know, so it was like a poorhouse.
Yeah.
It was like a poorhouse. And it's still standing. But yeah, so my great-gran used to use that because they were skint. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people, if you got family members or used to come here or you got any stories, put it in the comment section.
I mean, that's 1863. My great-gran was born in 1894.
Wow.
So she died at 103, she was, when she died.
Lived good.
She lived long.
Lived long life.
Yeah, but she was, you know, she was in service. She was in the workhouse at one point. You know, it was a hard life, I think, for them. You know, and then the wars, two wars.
Also, she saw both of the wars.
She saw both wars.
Wow.
She stayed in London during the Blitz. My mum, she was born in 44, and they moved her out in 44.
Okay.
She was evacuated.
Okay, yeah, because that's the war, innit?
For the last year, she was evacuated.
Yeah. The war started, was it 1944, innit? The second
1939.
1939 to 45. Right.
Yeah.
And I could tell the round here could have been.
This place here, Mile End, Millwall, up north as well, Liverpool, places like that. These places were hit hard because of the docks and the industry. Yeah. You know, I mean, Hoxton was known really for furniture making, stuff like that. Right. And then at one point, years and years ago, there was a weavers revolt apparently at some point. I don't know too much about that. But, this place was, when I grew up around here in the 60s, I was born in 64, so when I grew up around here, there were still lots of bomb sites that were just dumped. There were dumps everywhere. But there's only 2 pubs left now in Hoxton. There used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There used to be 6 pubs in Hoxton, on Hoxton Street. And now, to my knowledge, we've got this one, and then we've got the Macbeth down the end there, which used to be my local. That was great. Lock-ins, everything. Great.
What are we doing outside this pie and mash shop, sir?
Well, F-Cook. Pie mash shops are like football teams. Everyone's got their favourites. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're an Arsenal guy,
yeah, an Arsenal man. I'm also an F-Cook fan as well. So you've got Kelly's, Manzies, you know. There's a lot of competition. Do you know what I mean? I'd probably suggest the Kellys are probably Tottenham, whereas F-Cook is definitely the Gooners, definitely Arsenal, definitely top of the Premier League. But But it used to be in Kingsland Road in Dalston, and it was in a really beautiful old building, which is now a Chinese restaurant. Actually, fantastic architecture. And what they used to have out the front was they'd have this big silver tray that used to come out the front with a big lump of ice in it, full of eels, right? And you'd go up, and people would queue up, and you'd go, and they were alive, and you'd go, I'll have that one, and then take it out, chop it up. It'd still be moving when they chop it up. They'd chop it up. Ooh. Boil it up if you wanted boiled. I don't do eel, but if you wanted boiled eel, they'd give you boiled eel, and if you didn't, you'd get your jellied eels. You know what I mean? But they moved from there, and they're here now. Joe Cook, who's been doing this, it's a family business. They've been doing it. I think his dad did it too. Yeah. And it's the best pie mash shop.
So what is your go-to here?
Here, double pie, double mash. When we came down, when I was with my boy the last time we came down, there were loads of tourists in there.
Wow.
And the lady behind the bar was screaming out, "Don't eat the bones, you'll choke on them. Don't eat the bones,
snap.
you'll choke." But they were just trying the jellied eels. I can't do that because it's cold as well. It's quite it's like a sort of, it's a traditional East End. It's not just East End, it's just a traditional working class food. It's cheap and it fills you up. Because this is the musical. This was it still is a musical. Lots of people played here, famous people. One of the most famous people that came from Hoxton and played here actually was Mary Lloyd. Okay. She was a musical star. Yeah. They still use it today. It's an amazing building. Inside, it's fantastic. It just looks the same as it did. You know, you stand up in the mezzanine. There's like a mezzanine. Oh. You stand up there, and it's just a really old building. They do a lot of community work in there as well. A lot of community art stuff, and it's worth a look if you can get the chance to get in there. A lot of these buildings are really, really old. You know, like this place here in particular. You know, this place is really old. It was derelict for years and years and years. It's probably been, it's been in that condition, I'd say, for probably the last 20 years. But it was derelict for years. You know, in a house like this now, in Hoxton, 2.5 million probably.
Wow.
Probably. I mean, it's fantastic. And this shop next to it, when I was a kid, it used to be where the rag and bone man brought all of his stuff. So the rag and bone man would come round with his barrow.
What is the rag and bone man?
A rag and bone man would come round, he'd have a trolley, like a big old wooden trolley, cart. He'd ring a bell and he'd go, bring out your rags. And people would just give all their stuff away. When I was a kid, it wasn't the dumb thing wasn't to go and buy second-hand stuff. If you bought second-hand stuff, it was frowned upon. It's not like today where kind of vintage clothes, it's like a cool thing to do, Yeah. You wouldn't have worn second-hand clothes. And this place here was really like, as I say, like we had the poorhouse at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. It was like an open area with piles and piles and piles of clothes. And the poor would go in and just try and they'd buy stuff for pennies. Yeah.
As we're trying to cool ourselves down, ice cold water, and a nice hot day in Hoxton. This is your pub, isn't it?
This used to be my local, yeah. And it was great. We had some great times in there. And the thing about it was that you'd have a lot of young people in there, but you'd also get the old people from Hoxton would come out, and on a Friday, Saturday night, they were going out. They were going out. Nick that from Mickey Flanagan, but there you go. And they'd be suited and booted. They'd come out, the wives would all be done up, you know what I mean? They've got all the guys, and it had a real nice eclectic mix in there. It was run by two guys, quite crazy, the pair of them. And they'd have like a guy on a keyboard in there. They'd all be getting up doing karaoke. It was a little bit cheesy, but it was just great. And as I say, locking, you could knock on the door after 11. You could knock on the door and they'd let you in, and they're refurbing it again.
Yeah, they're renovating it, man.
They're refurbing it again. So it's got a magnificent tiled mural on the wall in there. Can't really see it, but which is a scene from Macbeth.
So what was your go-to drink?
I was a lager boy, wasn't I? Really, lager. I went through the gamut of alcohol. I was quite good at drinking. I was very good at it, and I haven't had a drink for 3.5 years. So
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Apart from aqua. we're just behind Hoxton Street now. This road here leads to Pitfield Street. It's quite a sort of, I'd say famous, but it's quite a well-known street down here in there. And actually, they filmed quite a bit of that movie with Lenny McLean, The Governor.
Okay.
Sort of around that corner there, because apparently he used to live in, there's a place over there called Calaban Tower where some suggest Lenny McLean lived. It's not confirmed, but anyway, so this kind of gives you more of an idea, like a flavour of, like, before it was sort of, even though it doesn't look too gentrified, trust me, the difference around here is it's changed a lot. And this was more like, you know, what I kind of remember it as. It was more, you know, really kind of totally living on top of each other, but it was community spirit, you know.
That is it.
But it was also, you know, because of the nature where it is, you know, there were gangs around here, but it wasn't anything like gangs today.
Your days was the Crate brothers, right?
Well,
Ronnie and Reggie Crate.
Not even that so much. Just sort of like people on their estates. So there'd be Hoxton, Haggerston. Up that way would be Packetton Estate. Do you know what I mean? And people, you know, they get a little bit shirty, but it was never. No one was ever stabbed. If someone got stabbed, it was like front page news. Do you know what I mean? It was like such a rarity. So, you know, you might get a few people hanging out on the street. I'll tell you, as a kid growing up around here, there was nothing to do, right? There was nothing to do. There's a boys' club around the corner. We'll go and have a look at that. But like, other than that, you know, there were lots of dumps from the wall. We used to play on the dumps. But you'd just be hanging about the streets. And, you know, so some people, I would imagine, get a bit bored. You know, see someone they don't really know.
Rob them.
Might be a little bit of it. But even that really wasn't. It was, although it was going on, it felt a lot safer.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, like getting mugged and all that, it was a real rare thing. For someone to nick something, you know, if someone to nick something off you was like, it was a big deal.
What was the craziest crime that you've seen? Or have you been in anything yourself back then? Or
really? No. I mean, you know, I've never been charged with anything. But up the road is where they did one of the precursors to the Brinks mat, where they stole all the gold bullion. That's just up the road in Shoreditch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, we were like, you know, we were tearaways, but we weren't, you know, we weren't nicking cars or doing anything like that. We were, you know, we were just hanging. We were just bored. We were just Arden Estate.
This is your block.
Well, my block's just over behind these buildings here, really.
Yeah.
But Arden Estate's quite sort of big.
Yeah.
Big area. I mean, my family, they came from London Fields originally that way to Hoxton, really, and then my nan, my mum's mum, they were moved into flats in 1958. They moved from sort of like a, you know, proper 2 up, 2 down outside toilet, polished a red step on a Sunday sort of a place. They had a front parlour upstairs. They had a kitchen that still had a little wood burner in it that you cooked on.
Oh wow!
It was you know, it was basic. So, you know, they moved from there to this Britannia Walk, which is over this side really. And for them, it was a luxury. You know, they had an inside toilet. They had a bath. They had a fridge built into the wall. You know?
Wow!
So it was a massive change for them.
Yeah, we're outside, the Lion Club for the young people.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it, mate.
Well, this was like a boys' club. It was boys only at that point in time, and they used to do all kinds of things. They had a snooker table in there. As I say, there wasn't much for us to do around here at all. But they also had a boxing gym in there, so people used to box. And it's quite interesting because a few people went through this club. At one point, when John Conte was training for the World Championship, he used to come and he used to train here. So everyone that was training would be training with John Conte. It was amazing, actually. It was amazing. And fortunately, I haven't got them anymore. But I actually had the tape that he wore when he won the title. I had the tape that they cut off his hands. Lots of people went through this. I don't know if anybody remembers Grange Hill.
Yes, come on.
Okay,
I love that show.
What was the boy's name in it? The troublemaker.
Oh my God, I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. I forgot completely.
Samo. Samo.
Now I know, yeah.
He boxed here, and his dad was the trainer. At the Lion Club.
And bear in mind, people, this ain't the original building, but this is the same site, right?
It's the same site.
Yeah.
It's the same site.
And it's been around since 1934.
Yeah, I think that's the original Lion. This building used to be like red. It was all red. It didn't look anything like this at all. And on the top, there used to be, it was all gated, and that was where the football pitch was.
Oh, snap.
On the roof. This used to be a really beautiful old Will Wyatt Court. It's now student accommodations.
Yeah.
It used to be one of those old Victorian red brick school buildings.
All right.
And I used to live just behind it. They probably knocked it down, I don't know, it must be 10 years ago now. Behind the buildings that are in front of us now, there's a huge green. And that used to be an enormous bonsai. And in the 70s, we used to have adventure playgrounds. Yeah, and they were basically built together with like probably rotten wood and rusty nails. Health and safety wasn't part of the plan, you know. But it was great. But we used to go over there and dig.
Yeah.
And you'd find lots of old clay pipes and just lots of old stuff from, well, just because all the houses, they only got 2 up, 2 down, back to backs they were, and small yards at the back adjoining. I used to live in here.
Okay, let's go.
It's quite a nice little spot, and that's where I used to live. This is Calaban Tower. There is some history with this, and I think Alf's probably got more knowledge of it, about the name of the place. What's the story with that?
It's all Shakespeare. So I think there's like Macbeth Court, Julia Court, Celia Court, stuff like that. It's all
and
to
that's
do with
Calaban Tower. That's where supposedly Lenny McLean lived. I don't know. I did see Lenny McLean. I only met him once. I met him at the back of Roman Road, and I was with a mate of mine, and this tiny little mini shot around the corner and parked, and this giant got out of it. It was just this giant. It was like an escapologist. I don't know how he even got in the car, let alone got out of it. He was massive, and my mate knew him. And he was like, "All right, Lenny," and he came over, "All right, son, how's it going, boy? How's it going?" And I shook his hand, do you know what I mean? That was it. That was my claim to fame with Lenny. Yeah. I think he died when did he die? 90, when did he die?
Don't know.
Probably 10, 15 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he was the king of the bouncers. You should know that.
King of the bouncers?
Yeah, that's what they called him, king of the bouncers. Yeah, he used to run the door. He ran the door at what's the place in Camden? Camden Palace.
Ah!
He ran the door there, I think.
Camden Palace.
Yeah, and then obviously
Monument Street.
yeah, and then he became obviously a thespian, and you know, lock, stock, 2 smoking barrels. Go get the guns, get the guns,
Gosh,
get the fucking guns. Do you know what I mean?
Snap! I know exactly.
Just get the guns.
Four fingers. You haven't got. I suggest you get those guns. Quick!
If we can't get them, we can't get them.
Well, you'll have to fucking get them.
Look, we made a fucking deal for everything inside the cabinet.
Inside, out, fucking side. I don't give a shit. You get those guns, because if you don't...
Oh, yeah, Basil, oh, what?
Have you heard of Harry Lonsdale? Otherwise known as Ack You Up with an Acid Harry?
Just get the fucking guns.
His claim to fame to acting.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. That's all you're going to get. Stanford Hill as well used to be like fields. When my nan worked in service in Stanford Hill, like it must have been 1920s, and it was like, that was like going out to sort of like, it was like, there was nothing there, it was fields. Wow. It was like a lot of money, big houses, lots of money, do you know what I mean? I say these places, that's what's really weird about somewhere like this when you go, I mean, I know it's a long time ago, the 1700s,
Yeah.
but when you imagine that it was just parkland, there were lots of parks, and like I said at the beginning, like tourists used to come and stay, you know what I mean? It's really weird. It's really weird. It's always a bit weird to come back as well here, because it's like, you know, I had a lot of good memories as kids because we was always on our bikes, we was always running about, you know, and there is definitely a vibe. It did get, you know, it did start to get very, very rough around here, you know, and yeah, 80s, 90s, punk, all that, you know. It started to get a little bit ropey. There was the National Front up the road. They had their buildings up the road. John Tyndall, Martin Webster, they were all up that end. Do you know what I mean? That was like, that weren't great, you know. For me, like, as I say, I was lucky to live around here, particularly when my nan lived, when it was a community. Everyone knew everyone, do you know what I mean? And it just, you know, now, as you said earlier on, you know, you can live next to your neighbour for 10 years, you don't even know their names.
So, big reveal. This is indeed my dad. I'm back in the vlogs now. But after being pressured by Magic J, I'm back in.
Has to be done, sir.
Has to be done.
Here, this caging, right, this has been here probably 10 years now, maybe a little bit longer, because there never used to be an entry door to the flats, right, a buzzer. And when they came and they did a bit of modernising, right, all of these other flats, I'd say probably 90% of them had their own gates on them, right? That looked a bit like this. The gates on the windows and everything. It looked like, as I said, it looked like Alcatraz. And when the council were trying to uplift the vibe, and you know, they, as I said earlier on, they put a notice out to everybody saying that you had to remove the bars. So everybody removed their bars, which the council paid for. Everybody removed their bars, and then the council put in that door and then put all these bars up. So kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of another, really.
So it's like closing out these people, but these people are more open.
Yeah. I mean, these people down here, fortunately, have got really big gardens, which is one of the things I have to say, that when the council did modernise a lot of the flats around here, and particularly in Wenlock Barn, a lot of the people got, because of a communal garden, just communal grass at the, you know, like a big square, and they gave people gardens. So at least people on the ground floor have got quite nice size. Yeah, quite nice size.
It's through you that I get my love for the Arsenal.
Yeah.
If you know, try and go every game home and away. And you used to go every game home and away.
Well, I used to go every home game.
Every home game.
I've been to a few away games, but this is years ago. This was when it was Highbury. £3.50 to get in on the gate. We used to go North Bank, me and 3 of my mates. We used to go every home game, midweek as well, and it used to be it just used to be such a laugh. You just have such a laugh, and it was like it was rough as old boots. The toilets stank. The only sort of refreshment was a geezer who'd come round with a big bag going, roasted peanuts. That was about it as far as sustenance went.
I've got a few mates in the North Bank, but Clock End.
The Clock End in those days was it's not like it was today. Obviously they've got the seats in there, well, even though everyone stands up. But the Clock End in those days, it was like a free-for-all. And there was a tunnel underneath, and that's where the bar was. It was underneath the stands. And so all you'd have a line of old Bill just like not in riot gear. They used to still have the silly hats on and all that. They'd be just standing in the line, and you'd have 2 opposing supporters, and it used to kick off quite a lot. So as much as the North Bank was kind of like, you know,
they wanted to take
the people that, but yeah, they wanted to take the North Bank. The Clock End really was where all the sort of serious people that like to engage in a different kind of entertainment tended to hang out, you know. And but at that point in time, that firm they were called the Herd, you know. And their main dude was Denton. Denton was this huge black guy, big scar down his face. I went on a Beano with them to watch Portsmouth, and on a coach, and it was that lot. There was also a lot of guys that involved in that lived up the Archway as well in London, and we got to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth intrinsically was like a hole in the ground with some wooden sort of benches around the outside. I'm being a bit cruel, but it was a bit like that. And you sort of walked in, there were these big wooden doors, and there were these big concrete steps, and you walked up and over the lip and walked down, and there you were watching the game. And there was only like, I don't know, how many people did you get on a coach? 50?
50.
About 50 of us. And of course everyone was hurling abuse, and we came out, I think we beat them. They held us in until the home fans had gone, right? So they kept us in there. Kind of an early form of kettling, I would suggest. When we came up the stairs, when we came up these ramps, outside the back of these two gates, there was all these Portsmouth supporters, like gnawing at the bit to get at us, you know, hurling abuse at us. And us being such eloquent and well refined gentlemen, obviously, you know, didn't want to entertain such discourse from these people, you know. Anyway, they opened the gates, and the old Bill just left, right? And there's all these guys. Anyway, Denton, he just went out there on his own. He just walked out on his own, and he just coming in, you know, and they all just basically dispersed. So we started chasing them around Portsmouth, and then the police came and herded us back onto this coach. As we were driving out of Portsmouth, they were throwing bricks and all kinds of shit at the coach, and they kept that police escort right up until we got into, I think it was Vauxhall. I think it was Vauxhall Bridge. They wouldn't let us off the coach to stop at all. And then they let us off at Vauxhall. So that was an experience I had of one away game with those boys. I know that they probably entertain that kind of stuff on a weekly basis, do you know what I mean? But as I say, I was predominantly a North Bank boy. My dad took me to my first game.
Not
anymore, no.
He sits in Clock End now.
Now I go to the
Block 25 now.
But
I've converted him.
my dad was an Arsenal supporter, so I suppose it runs in the family.
And you've got to say why.
What do you mean, why?
Or when he moved over.
Well, my dad was from Cyprus, so my dad came over in '47, and a lot of Greeks lived in North London. And because they like football, they'd support the nearest team, and he started supporting Arsenal. So that was kind of, where it. And Alf used to say to me when he was little, what was the first word he ever said? And it was Arsenal. So,
well,
as a baby,
I will always say to anyone watching this, if you don't support your local team or the team your dad supports, you're not a true football fan, and you have no right to support that team. And I don't want to hear anything about it, because you probably watch your team on TV when we go every week. When was the last game you went to? When was the last game you went to, mate? When was that? Because I was at Southampton away last game of the season, and I was at Newcastle home before that. Oh, but at least, mate, if Arsenal won the league, if Arsenal won the league, I'd be watching it live. I wouldn't be watching it on TV like you did. That's all I'll say. So, as you've been talking about, around here and London's changing a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even look, got the old flats.
new
flats right next to it.
Yeah.
And you said a lot of the people who lived here aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
2 questions. Would you say that the East Ender, typical East Ender that you know about, is dying out? And second of all, when they've moved, where have they moved to?
That's a good question. I think a lot of EastEnders have moved out, but I think that's happened over probably a period of 50 years maybe, because you've got, you had like you had Fords in Dagenham. A lot of people moved out to Dagenham, better lives. Get out. A lot of the EastEnders just wanted to get out anyway. But I think that there are a lot of people that reminisce about living in the East End. It was a very different place. And so yeah, a lot have moved out, and obviously a lot of them have moved to Essex. You've got your sort of Braintree, Chelmsford,
Basildon. A lot of the new towns people have moved
But
out
when I was
to.
a kid, Barkingside and Ilford felt like Essex. It felt like miles away. You know what I mean? It felt like a long way away. My uncle lived in Ilford, and it felt like it was miles away. So yeah, I think that there has been a massive change in terms of the people that lived around here originally, without a doubt. And I think to some degree maybe it can be looked upon as that they chose a better life, maybe. But I also think that I think to some degree, it's like gentrification at Hoxton, right? It's interesting because it's a juxtaposition. You've still got people there that got no money, and you've got people there that have got an awful lot of money. One of the things that used to piss me off about it was that what I didn't see occurring was that the people that were coming in with the money were investing the money in kind of like little local businesses and stuff like that. What was going on was that businesses that were cheap to buy because no one wanted to be there were being bought up and then turned into places that were selling frappuccinos for £4.50. You know what I mean? So there was no accommodation of the local people really. And that's kind of what pissed me off really. And then I wondered to myself, well, why am I because I didn't want to leave Hoxton really, but at one point I just was looking out my gate, right in front of the door one day, and I thought, what am I clinging on to? Yeah, it's an idea, it's a memory. It's not going to change. It is what it is. So time to let them have it if they want it. If the trendy people are coming in, do you know what I mean? And it's You know, and generally, you know, these things cheap rents start with creative people. Creative people don't tend to have a lot of money. So if there are cheap rents, they'll come in and but then when you get artistic people in an area, you start to get other people in an area that got money, and it you know, it's a class war.
Yeah.
That's what it is at the end of the day.
I mean, in Essex, you'd be surprised wherever you go, you know, we're in Essex now. And there's a massive proportion of Londoners, especially East Londoners.
Yeah, massive proportion.
Huge proportion.
Massive proportion.
Like, there's still a lot of the original Essex residents, but massive
Yeah.
amounts. And that's what's quite interesting about the Essex accent, for example.
Yeah.
If you hear the original Essex accent, it's not what it's like proposed to be.
No.
It's actually what it is now. It's just like an adaptation of the East London accent as people moved out.
Yeah, to some degree, I'd say you can still sometimes catch. Like if it's an older person, you can still kind of catch a little bit of a twang, but there's definitely, you know, Essex. But I think as well, you know, Essex, you know, to some, you know, it's got that sort of reputation, hasn't it, of orange girls with white shoes and, you know, massive false eyelashes and stuff like that. And to some degree, that's true.
If you go on a night out in Chelmsford,
you can't deny it. You know, people. You know, I mean, in Colchester, my belief is, you know, I don't know if they've still got it, but they used to have a bus there. I think it was called the Pink Bus, which was for girls, and they used to have like they'd give out sort of like paper slippers and bottles of water because the girls would be so caned, you know, people, and it being a garrison town as well, you know, the consumption of alcohol and kind of like street fighting was just ridiculous. I don't know whether that's a throwback to the East End, because Roman Road as well, you know, had its fair selection of, you know, orange girls in little white skirts and little white, you know, shoes, high heels, waddling about, you know, buying their fake Prada bags on a Saturday afternoon. But yeah, there's a lot of people that have moved, definitely.
Where are we now?
Well, we're on Murray Grove now, which is the other side of New North Road. So it's where my nan lived, where she moved. I spoke about it earlier on. She moved from Pownall Road down here. This used to be this used to be the library.
Oh, this building here?
It was a tiny little library, yeah, it was lovely. This building here, with this brand new building here, this used to be the Boozer, this used to be a pub there. The Cafe Mandalay was the baker. And then next to this is a little shop there, a bloke called Beasley's. And Beasley was he was such a git. It was a bike shop, and he sold records as well. But you'd go over there, you'd fix a puncture, get your puncture fixed, right? And then like 10 minutes later, your tyre would go. He was
basically, yeah, he was a...
there was a little bit of the Jimmy Savile about him.
Even that.
Do you know what I mean? There was a little bit of the Jimmy Savile about him. But...
didn't know what to do, basically.
Yeah, and he was Beasley. He was just tight. He was just really tight. So... And there used to be hairdressers there in the 70s, and a guy called John used to cut the hair there. He looked like someone from like a glam rock band, do you know what I mean? But all of these shops, it used to be really like, there was a little shop here, like a little supermarket called Wastles, which was like the massive supermarket. There was a shop that sold needle and cotton. There was the butchers, which was one of these.
So basically, around here was a nice community, basically.
Yeah.
It had everything that you needed.
Yeah, it was, everyone kind of knew everyone. Do you know what I mean? It was so quiet. Another thing as well, it was so quiet. There was, like at the weekends.
It is a bit quiet.
Yeah, but I mean at the week, like all these cars now, you just wouldn't see them. I mean, to have a car, it sounds like a woe betide me story, but to have a car, and you know, then was like, that was a massive luxury to have a car. When we got our first car, it was like when we got our first telly. My mum got our first telly for 20 Benson and Hedges. That's what she got the telly for, and we had the aerial in the bedroom at the end. And if you wanted to change it, someone would have to go up there and you have to go, yeah, and you'd spend 20 minutes up there, come and sit down, and then it'd start rolling again. Do you know what I mean?
That, black or white or colour?
Black and white, mate. The first programme I ever watched on TV was Bonanza. Do you know Bonanza?
Never.
It was like a cowboy, like an American cowboy.
Okay.
That was Bonanza.
Well,
that was
probably
Bonanza.
have to YouTube it, guys.
Yeah, Bonanza. And there was a big guy in it called Hoss. He was like the big sort of goodie. Like, yeah, but that was the first programme I ever watched. And this is Britannia Walk. This used to be, this is where my nan used to live. And all this down here this is all, I say new, I say that's new, but like, you know.
So that block down there used to look like the rest of these.
This road, no, this where that building is there used to be a school there, but before there was a school there, you got the Cinders football pitch here. That's all we had, right? We had the Cinders football pitch. At the other side of that, there was a factory, but it was bombed out. So all they had was the basement that was just still open. On the left-hand side, it was all 2 up, 2 downs. And on the right-hand side, do you remember when you did that thing about the prefabs?
Yeah.
There was all prefabs down this road, and it went all the way down to City Road. Yeah, and at the top of this road here is Shepherdess Walk, and Shepherdess Walk is very famous because Shepherdess Walk has got the pub The Eagle on it, right?
Okay.
And it's also got City Road Nick on it, which you don't really want to go to. I don't even know if it's still open now. It used to be one of the police stations that kept the horses.
Right.
But that pub is from up and down the City Road, in and out the Eagle. That's the way the money goes.
Yeah.
Pop goes the weasel. So that boozer, and that pub, funnily enough, that pub had a thing in it called the Greek Theatre, right?
Right.
And the guy that did the Salvation Army, what was his name?
I don't know.
Was it Pal? I can't remember.
You know his name,
I can't remember his surname now. He got really angry about it, right? Because it was a den of iniquity, right? He said, "We've got to shut this place down. We've got to shut this place down." So they did this huge campaign, and the Salvation Army got the place shut down, right? And because it was a pub, right? People were going nuts. It was like up and down the City Road, in and out the Eagle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. There was a lot of leather trades around here, around the back here, right? And the weasel was a tool that you used in the leather. And when you pop your weasel, you went and got credit on the tool that you'd pay back, right? Up and down the City Road, in and out the Eagle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel, right?
Who remembers that?
Right. So there was this big stink about the pub being shut down, and then what happened was because if they weren't using it for purpose, which is under the building regs, the Salvation Army had to rescind their ownership of it, and they turned it back into a pub, and it's still a pub now. So this is where my nan used to live, but I'm going to tell you a story about over here. Yeah. This is where I grew up as a kid, but yeah, with this flat here. This. I try and be a little bit quiet because I don't want to scare the neighbours. This flat here, right, there used to be this couple that lived there, and they were an older couple, and they always used to row, and you know, like really loud rows, and because we were kids running about, we'd hear it. Anyway, a few kind of very odd things happened, and a couple of odd things happened with the guy that lived there too, which I won't go into. Anyway, these rows were going on and on and on for months and months and months, and then all of a sudden, there was just silence. We didn't hear anything at all. No one had seen him. Nothing had happened, and about 2 months went by, and the bloke came. The gas man used to come to read your meter. I don't know if they still do it. Empty the meter because you used to put money in.
Oh yeah, 50p's in or something, innit?
Yeah. So he'd come to empty.
Way before your time, mate.
Yeah, he'd come to empty the meter. So he knocked on the door, and the old boy opened the door, and he said, "I've come to read the meter." And he said, "You can't come in. I've murdered my wife."
Oh,
right.
Wow.
So they called the old Bill. The police turned up. They cordoned all this off, right? They're all going in hazmat suits, and he'd poisoned her. That's the kitchen there. But he'd left her sitting at the kitchen table. So she'd been sitting at the kitchen table for like...
Slumped.
I'm probably a bit stiff by that point, I would imagine. But yeah, and that was the story of that place there. They took him away, and we thought that we'd never see him again. And then about 2 years later, we saw him wandering about. So I don't know whether he got off because she'd driven him to it. But yeah, he said, "I poisoned my wife." That was like...
Who remembers that story, guys? If you do, you lived here, write in the comment section.
Yeah, on that happy note. I mean,
wow.
Yeah,
so there's ghosts living in that house right now.
Quite possibly. Nile Street, this used to be... It was really old here. Lots of old shops and stuff like that. There was a pub on the corner my mate's dad used to own. It might still be open. There was a shooting there at one point, like from across here there was some gun shop. A long time ago. It was a massive thing for a shooting to happen. But I used to come here when I was a kid and get my hair cut when I was tiny, and the guy that used to do it was a Greek guy called John. And I was so small, he used to put me on a chair with the plank, you know, and he'd cut me hair. And I used to
the bumper chairs, what they have now.
Yeah, you know, like proper old with the old drawings on there, something for the weekend, sir, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I used him for years and years and years, and then one day I came to get a haircut, and he'd gone, and I was like, I was in Barber Wilderness. Do Do you know what I mean? I was in Barber Wilderness, didn't know what to do. So for years, I used to go to different barbers and that. And then one day, like 20 years later, I was walking down here. I looked in the shop and he's back in the shop. He's got the same overalls on. It was like a warp in time. And I went in and I went, John. And he looked at me and I went, is this Michael? He went, oh, Greek. He went, oh, hello, boy. Oh, I said, I've got to have a haircut now. And now I've come in. I had a bit more hair then. Got to come in. And I used to comb my hair back like this, yeah, when I had it. And I went in and he said, what do you want me to do? I said, give me the works. You know what I mean? I'll have a wash. I used to have a dry cut. I'll have a wash. He said, what do you want? I said, I just want you to do it over my ears. I said, okay, great. So he washed my hair. And he gets the blow dryer out and he gets the denim brush out and he starts to, and I thought, why's he got a denim brush? What's that for? I just went over my ears and he starts doing he's doing it like this, right? He's doing like, anyway, I just sat there, I thought, I'm just going to let him do it. Just going to let him do it. And he did this like bowl. It was like a bowl like this. It was like a bowl. And I was looking in that, it was like a bowl. And I was looking in the mirror and I was like, no, should I tell him? And I was like, no. Anyway, I paid him. And I came out and the shop next to it, like, I walked past the window there and I looked ridiculous. It was just, probably the worst haircut I've ever had. And I went home, wet my hair. It was the last time I ever used John. But
and then we saw him as well.
We did see him. Yeah, and he was still there. He might still be there now. I don't know. He might.
What did he do your bonnet?
He might still be there.
No. This needs doing though.
Anyway, that's my Nile Street story, really.
Wow.
It's still on Nile Street. I just remember this. I'm not gonna bad name this particular dental practice, but years ago there used to be a dentist here called Malik. And they used to do it without any anaesthetic. They'd take your teeth out without any anaesthetic. They'd do your fillings without anaesthetic. It was brutal dentistry. It was, yeah.
Do you remember the film Little Shops of Horror?
Yeah.
Where when the dentist came in and he was like,
yeah, it was like, what's that film when they take people, like Hostel.
Oh yeah.
It was like Hostel. This is called Shich Park now. And I was talking earlier on about it being dumps and stuff like that. This used to be a huge dump before they did all this. I'm going back years now. Then they grassed it up like this, and but all of the other stuff is kind of new. And the building, I've not seen any of these since it's the first time I've seen this building since I've been back. Actually, I used to go play centre here in the summer holidays. I hated it. It was awful. Food was terrible. But it's quite famous. There used to be quite a famous Afro-Caribbean centre here in these buildings. I don't know if it's still there, but they used to do a lot of music out of there when I was a kid. It was like an art centre, one of the first sort of art centres in the area, and I'm going back years now, 70s, in the area. This has all been a bit gentrified now. These houses look very, very well maintained. And this is Gainsborough. And Gainsborough, this has been totally renovated. This was like a big old red edifice. And this was where Hitchcock, he used it as a studio, Gainsborough Studios, and made quite a few early Hitchcock movies in there. And that building now sits on the canal. The canal's just behind there. I think we're going to head that way anyway now. But yeah, that's kind of where we are now. So it's actually it's very pleasant.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very pleasant.
Right, so if you look over here at these new builds, this is where the Colville Estate used to be. So the Colville Estate was on the canal, used to go all the way up towards there. It was like red brick buildings. There's no security doors. It's kept. That's all gone now. These are luxury flats. So same old story, as you've heard me bang on about a million times. This was never here either. This is the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, that's a crazy building.
It's the first time I've ever seen that. And I like to come here and eat sometimes, and that is the first time I've ever seen that.
You like to eat it, don't you?
I do.
I like to eat, man.
Every shoot, what you don't see behind every shoot is the fact that I'm always going, all right, so when are we going to eat? What are we eating? Every shoot, whenever we work with an artist, I always say, so where should I get food? That's what you don't see. But something that's quite interesting as well, I don't think we're going to go past it, but there's an estate sort of just up that way.
Apologies for that.
So it's sort of at the end of Hoxton Street, a little bit further up, just by the bridge, by the canal. It's called New Era Estate. And I remember once I saw it in a GCSE geography textbook when I took that course. And why it came up is because that was an estate that was really being threatened of being knocked down. And the residents were very unhappy with it. So for some reason, I don't know why, but Russell Brand turned up at a protest and was just there campaigning. And you know, I think this estate was going to get bought out by some American buyers and completely redone, just like Colville Estate has up here. Anyway, so Russell Brand came down and the residents won their case.
Part of the solution, people coming together to amplify the voices of ordinary people. That's precisely what's needed. There's no greater, more expensive piece of real estate in London than that one, and the people in there are the people that have the obligation.
I'd say your house is nearly on a par.
Yeah, well, it's rented. We don't know the value. You'd have to talk to my landlord. Blessedly, I can afford my rent, and I'm prepared to stand up for people that can't. It's been lovely talking to you.
David Cameron isn't. At least Russell Brand's actually standing up, regardless of how big his house is, and coming down and helping ordinary people.
Maybe if the media
Let's see if
turn on
David
people
Cameron
as soon as people stand up. No, you're turning. No, there's anyone who's like.
David Cameron's prepared to come out of his big house and help us. He isn't, is he? But Russell Brand has, and thank God there is people like him who's prepared to step out and help people like us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have 300,000 signatures. We would have been kicked out and booted out of London.
Yeah,
so thank
snides
God.
like you, mate, undermine it. You're a snide.
But I've heard now it's getting knocked down and redone anyway. So, you know, all of that for nothing. I just thought that was quite interesting. I was in geography once and I just recognised it, and I just saw Russell Brand in New Era Estate in my textbook. But yeah, so I think you got to remember, around here is prime real estate. There's not really many places in London now more trendy than this. Just above Shoreditch. It's got a bit of edge to it, which people sort of like. So yeah, whoever's developed these flats, I guarantee you has made millions and millions of pounds. Your estate.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's very kind of, it's like living in an office. They're very office blocky. Do you know what I mean? They're like, that's quite a depressing building, really, I think.
And do you know what? The new builds, I've heard they're built so badly. So you're basically, there used to be a high-rise block on this estate. So they basically knocked it down and replaced it. Difference is, this isn't social housing, or probably a very small percentage
ugly, man.
is.
But like, this thing's really awful. Look at it, it's just grim. On the bridge, Hoxton's behind us. This is Southgate Road, I believe. But these buildings over here, the way they look, these old warehouses, these have not been touched. This is what it looked like. This is what all the warehouses around this area look like. You know, they were really. It's almost Oliver Twist. It's like so grim and kind of like dark and dingy. I mean, imagine having to work in there like 12 hours a day, every day of the week. You know, it's like, it's very, very interesting. And these buildings here, these were empty. These are really old as well, but these were empty for years. But obviously someone's come in and done the do. And in terms of the boats, let me tell you this. I mean, I can't believe that people are actually parking their boats on this side, because I'm surprised they're not getting robbed blind. But the whole thing here, you'd never see, you know, when I was a kid, you'd never see the boats. And the canal when I was a kid was absolutely filthy. It was just like, it was grim. But it's become, I think you'll probably find these boats now, these narrow boats, probably go all the way up to Victoria Park and beyond, Old Ford, all the way up, you know. And I'll tell you what, one of the reasons that people started to do this was because obviously you can live in the centre of London, but you can do it relatively cheaply if you're living on a boat. However, if you've not got a permit to moor, right, you have to do a 6-week turnaround. So every 6 weeks you've got to move, and you can't come back to where you've been, my understanding is, until that 6 weeks has elapsed somewhere else. So, you know, the price of boats has gone up, the moorings have gone up, but I suppose it's a way of people being able to live an alternative life with an American Express card on the canal.
And I can imagine people used to live here, you know, in Victorian days,
possibly,
and the steel mill days, like people who's like, you know, throw their feces at
mate, you throw everything in the canal. They were like, it was like, you know, it was kind of Simpsons nuclear canal wall. You know what I mean? Like trolleys, everything was in the canal, but they dredged it, you know. And,
so seeing this now, what does this mean to you?
It's a double-edged sword, you know, because on the one hand you can see people are down there enjoying it. It's clean, you know. It's got actually today actually being in the area, it's been very mellow all day. You know, it's not felt edgy at all. It's been really quite nice. It's a double-edged sword for me. I suppose it's nostalgia, but then who really wants to retain nostalgia for being skint and like living in a slummy area? You know, it's a very, very, it's a funny one. Yeah. It's one I wrestle with, you know. I do wrestle with it.
You got the old building right
And then
there.
you've got the old stuff there, yeah, which is,
Briggs,
you know.
London Limited.
Yeah, and that goes down to Haggerston, and then over there you've got London Fields, you know, so it's, obviously they're the original buildings from the 60s over there, but all this stuff's new, this grey stuff. But yeah, you know, I suppose at the end of the day, you know, good luck to them, really.
The Bovar Estate, this is, I mean, I'd still say this is Hoxton. Some people would say it's the Bovar. Actual the Bovar's just over there, but this is like the estate. This is an iconic estate because NSG have shot a lot of their videos here.
Used to move like there's nothing to lose. Mix the off-white with the blues. I'm getting bookings, got hit the M-way, get guap. Mommy said.
Shout out to my boys NSG, man. You get me? I've got them on stage. Afrobeats Live back in the days, man. Trust me.
They've shot a lot here. So I think Options was shot here. Maybe a couple others, but a lot of films are shot here. And if you lot have watched The Gentleman, in the scene where they go to get someone's daughter, when they go to get the rich family's daughter, she's in one of these blocks, and mistakenly in the film they say, "Oh, she's in a South London council estate." Last time I checked, they got that a little bit wrong. But the scene where he fires the machine gun in the garage is directly above where we're standing.
You saying now, fam? Huh? Now I got back up. You could. Easy, lads. I'm sure you're all roadmen, gangsters, proper naughty boys, and all that bollocks. Give me the phone and take the money.
Drop the fucking money and run, boy.
Right.
Under where we're standing.
Yeah, it's directly under where we're standing. So if you come over here, these are garages, but I've never seen them open before. But these are garages. People have just chucked stuff down there. But yeah, this is where it was filmed. So yeah, a bit of an iconic estate,
Like
I'd
Venice
say.
without the water.
Yeah, very iconic Hackney estate, I'd say. And I think there's probably quite a lot of money coming in here now, but a lot of people have probably bought their flats. And you can see it's got a beautiful view from here as well. So you can see why. But yeah, that's the Bovar. And there's a little community centre over there. There's a lot of guys out chilling today, but there's a little community centre over there. And lots of stuff's filmed around here. With the Bovar Estate, I think maybe some of Top Boy was shot here, but I know for certain that it was based on the Bovar Estate. Like everything you see is based on the Bovar Estate. And I think the guy who wrote Top Boy lived on the Bovar. I might be wrong, but that's why it's all set in Hackney, even though most of it's filmed in Aylesbury Estate and Elephant and Castle and various other places. The Summer House Estate is based on the Bovar Estate.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why it says Hackney, even though they're shooting in these weird places. But even from here, you can see sort of Hackney Road, you can see Bethnal Green, Canary Wharf, you can see into the city over there, you can see the Shard, you can see Holly Street over there, London Fields over there, Stratford way back there, and you can see sort of Stoke Newington as well. So yeah, this is an iconic estate, and see all of Hoxton, a lot of the areas. This is the Colville estate I was telling you about. Half of it's still here, half of it's been knocked down, and this is the back of Shich Park. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful view.
Crazy.
Michael, we did it.
Yeah, we did.
Took us around the whole of Hoxton, took us around iconic spots what I didn't even know about. Yeah. So thank you for taking for taking us around, telling us your story.
No worries.
You know what I mean, and showing us how you grow your boxing club, everything, your pub, the whole community, and also you know your son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like you know.
Got to get him in.
Shout out to Shots by AK. If you don't know people, he's been featured in a handful of videos. So you know, that's it. This is another episode of Tea&Crumpets. If you want to see any other videos, you know, it's on the screen somewhere. But also we got a Tea&Crumpets extra. So look on the page, you will see it. Magic J, Michael, Shots by AK, Tea&Crumpets. We're out until the next episode. Peace.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot, man.
It's all love.